All right, everybody, welcome. And I will say, welcome to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about a spinoff that we're going to be actually be talking about is having my thoughts about Total Dramarama. So, anyway, this like I said, my friends, this is like a different version from Total Drama, but into pretty much like preschoolers. So, before I do say anything else, before we ever do get to the point of the fact now exactly, is that let's talk about Total Drama Rama with the characters. Especially, I do say, I will have to say, from most of the characters, I'll actually go on and talk. So, if you guys do or don't know that, well, the question is that if anybody told me that I found like secrets that I found in the beginning of the show of season 1 through 3, then yes. Which, again, I don't have to pretty much explain through about like, oh, the background characters, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. Which, yes, again, folks, already kind of saw that basically by any chance by rewatching the show. Like, I actually did rewatch like season 1 and then 2 and 3, which I've already had done already, which, again, it's going to take some progress to rewatch most likely of 1, 2, and 3, which I'll actually be very surprised and very honestly surprised with the entire show of how the show was getting pretty alright in most other certain tastes. But, all I could say that, well, the main antagonist is pretty much Chef. The one who pretty much like, the one who's a teacher, which again that he used to be a person back from the show, but now gets to be a teacher and teaches children. But again, I'm not going to pretty much explain with the whole Chris McClain and Chef Hadget going on with the arguing between, like, saying is like, oh, they're going to pretty much have to separate ways or have to split up ways exactly by saying is like, Chris can continue doing his reality TV show and stuff with the seasons and yada yada with the island and stuff. Well, pretty much Chef, which I already did kind of overheard that from season 2 that he kind of would rather go into prison anyway and go back to prison and sell like prison food, that he pretty much would rather return over there. But again, another fortunate surprise, that's when he gets to quit going through prison and then gets to teach with children. I think that's kind of what I would have to say if I was being dishonest. Just being very honest. So I'm going to pretty much explain about the characters' names since we're going to go through a chef all the way through the other people of the contestants from like season to season. Like, let's just say, like, bringing up from like season one's characters and then season five's characters. Not really, not season five's characters. I was not meant to say stupid all stars. No way. I meant to say was the other island, a Pocky Tail. Which again, if my tongue is already kind of having a hard time to explain with it anyway, then it's again pretty much what I would say. So let's just go with the adult chef for right now, and then we'll talk about like with the other preschoolers that pretty much is considered to be so. As I did say again, is that, well, gotta say about Chef, well, pretty much the teacher, well, he actually looks pretty different. If you guys do or don't know what I'm saying, is that, well, for Chef Hadget, he used to be a chef back in the show of the first season, which I'm surprised that, well, he's finally get to be the teacher, which again is pretty much a little bit obvious to me. So all I can say from here is that, well, I'm pretty surprised by seeing how this chef actually looks like. That actually wears like a pink something that wears and then wears a bit of a purplish tie and then pretty much with regular pants, and then just like normal shoes. And I'm like, dang, did Chef really became actually the teacher? And I'm like, there's like a good reason why that Chef actually was a teacher. Or should I say that will kind of almost be look like a teacher. So all I can say from here is that, well, man, I'm pretty surprised at the people that actually did a very somewhat job of having like this chef to pretty much be the main antagonist. that pretty much gets to be like the regular teacher and pretty much gets to help the children that pretty much insists that pretty much have them around exactly while chef, like teacher chef, which sometimes I like calling him like teacher chef or just like regular chef, but you know what I'm talking about. So all I can say from this guy is that, well, he did pretty okay as being a teacher, but trust me, whenever he got a lot stupider in somewhere in season 2 and 3, that's when you guys get to see the true behind of Chef Hadget himself. That actually is a different version of Chef. That he doesn't get to be all serious anymore. All he gets to do is pretty much get to be the funniest person, or gets to be a little bit somewhat very much likely incorrect. In some other times for him to be a bit stupid. But again, what do I have to say who was a better chef from the show or from Total Dramarama? I could be actually pointing out and say is like, which chef did I like better? Was it season 1 chef all the way from Pocket Tail, or was it from pretty much like from Total Dramarama? Well, in my extended question, is that I kind of liked it, the serious chef a bit better, which I mean, there are two similarities of two reasons of that. Oh man, yeah, Chef Hadget always gets to have like a different counterpart versions of himself being either being serious or non-serious in comparison by having two different similarities of Chef. Being either serious or not serious at all is that whenever he was getting to be the teacher of the show, I kind of was surprised by seeing the way how he gets to probably like teach the rest of the class and gets to pretty much do whatever. And that actually remains to be a very interesting question. And then also, saving in the very end, I'll actually be mentioning the secret characters that were behind the whole episodes, which I will actually probably reveal some of them, but it's not as much. I'll probably be explaining from like their positives to their negatives, which that's probably what I would say every other time, which not always every time, but just sometimes each time I'll actually will explain it. So yeah, that is like very interesting actually. Very interesting. So, let's just get on with who the next person is I'll be talking about. Like, I'll spread some a bit of like support sometimes of other characters, and then there will be other ones that I might dislike the most. So, let's just continue still. So let's talk about Izzy first. So let's have a talk about Izzy. So what I'm going to actually talk about Izzy from the show of Total Dramarama is that, well, in the very beginning of the episode, she kind of actually had a bit of different times while actually doing stuff. I mean, Izzy is kind of like the regular Izzy back from the island, which, I mean, not most likely a bit insane some of the time. Which, oh yeah, don't forget that we've all remembered what happened about Izzy from like a few seasons. A few couple of times of like, I don't know, mentioned the fact that there were like a couple of times from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 apparently from different clips of different episodes where she even reappears from, just as the teenager version of herself. But now it's pretty much a kid version of herself. So, about the kid version of Izzy, of pretty much the preschool version of Izzy, well, I gotta say that she kind of actually still was the same thing, but she kind of actually was being a bit somewhat supportive of the entire people with the rest of the preschoolers in with like Total Dramarama and stuff. Like she went pretty fine with others, which I mean, at least she kind of was somewhat fine. Begins to go on with 2 and 3, but in 1 she kind of went on and on about like she literally. I remembered what happened in episode 2 that Izzy did. She just made like an explosive rabbit. Like I'm like, what? You cannot be serious. Explosive rabbit. Like, I mean, again, with pretty much my boy Duncan's Clay, like, come on, Izzy. Like, I mean, I don't kind of blame some parts of Izzy in each episode, but I kind of do say that I might blame some parts of Izzy for what she was even doing back at the time, and a few different similar episodes where she kind of did some fails, a few times on some fails. But on some other fails, not as much. But all I gotta say is just like, bruh, that is like craziest thing I kind of would ever knew what was even happening back there. When it was just like a bit of a Duncan and Courtney moment afterwards back in the school, which I mean, yeah, Izzy could have not would have done that. Especially would have not even done the dare in the first place. Like, yeah, Chef should have really would have had his drink. But of course, that kind of really went on the play and went out the fetch. And I mean, I still do again appreciate Owen and Izzy being back to being a bit of like a thing for a bit afterwards in some other parts. Which again, I don't blame my guy Owen for most likely. Like sometimes he was literally funny. Like trust me, he is hilarious. I still have to say I would never have to say how Owen was this funny. In some other times, which I don't ever to assume to blame him in some parts of the time, which I don't even blame him, but all I gotta say, dude, Owen was actually pretty good. He was like very good. And oh, we're still continuing to back with Izzy. Well, in my concern points that Izzy did somewhat okay with, so I kind of give Izzy a little bit of a 7. Just because I'm only giving her a bit of a 7 doesn't mean I have to rate her up to back being 8. So I kind of give her 7 out of 10 for like a bit of somewhat of a bit some support a little bit with some people in the show that pretty much was with the preschoolers. Now, on to the next person that we'll talk about and discuss next. All right, so next up we're gonna have to talk about is Gwen. So about Gwen, all I'm gonna say that I have to say, not gonna lie, that well, at least Gwen was a very interesting character to begin with because oh trust me, I've always liked Courtney and Gwen from like literally in season one. Like, I literally have to say that Gwen had like some tastes into out of like the season of Total Dramarama, which was not that bad to begin with the character, but all I gotta say with however that she had some thought or had some a bit of darkness sometimes, which hey, I don't kind of blame how Gwen actually goes on with her act or pretty much with her role in different positions of rolling the entire way of being the character is that at least she's not that bad of a character, which I don't kind of blame Gwen anyway for some parts of the time, but yeah, I remember how season 5 was complete dog trash. Which, oh, trust me, I hated season 5 so much. Which, again, we're not going to go on with season 5 because it brings back so many bad memories. Like, oh, trust me, it brings so many bad memories in many reasons. That whenever I started liking to be Duncan for liking the character from the show, which, trust me, I did not like Scott or even Cameron for that matter, because Cameron already sucked. Barely from 4 or 5, which I had a problem with there in season 5. But when it was just season 4, he was fine to begin with and just similar okay to be in season 4. But when it switched season 5, I was like, nah, and I'm like, seriously, nah, which I was really not okay with in season 5 to begin with. And then as in for Scott, oh, I hated him in season 5, which, oh, he and me would have been in a rivalry. Just like I said, I've always liked Duncan, like, oh, seriously. Oh, I'm going to say that I hated Scott from season 5 whenever I remembered when it was just season 5. Because seriously, both of them literally got in my way. Just as my favorite character as Duncan to begin with in season 5, and that's when I started to hate Cameron in season 5 of pretty much All Stars, which more like All Stars, more like suck stars of All Stars to me. That's all I'd say to begin with. And then all I can say from again that some characters I'd said in season 5 were terrible. Literally most likely. But Zoe, I didn't kind of blame Zoe in season 5 because Zoe kind of deserved to win anyways. Like, that's all I kind of said anyways. Even though some characters were toxic to begin with, which, oh man, there could have been multiple fix-ups to do that crud. And then it just was never again to be fixed. So, yeah. Again, it brings back to that day anyway. So, let's just go on with the point of going back to Gwen for a second. So, what I'm going to say about Gwen is that, well, all I'm going to say for her that Well, she usually and normally sits in her egg chair, which I think it was kind of a bit of a new thing to me after when that show already was aired in season 1 all the way to the end of season 3. I'm like, huh. So that's when Gwen actually gets to sit in the egg chair. I mean, that's new. Like, actually, I have to say that actually was a little bit new to me by Gwen sitting in an egg chair. And that's just, huh, okay. Well, I never knew why just now. Like, I never knew why just for now. To know what was even happening with Gwen sitting in an egg chair, but that's just kind of fine with me otherwise, so that's just what I want to talk about. And that isn't for like all other stuff about Gwen. Well, she did very awesome to begin with, and then all I kind of did revealed and knew about was about with Gwen and Ella. I knew that they were cousins. I'm like, what? Like, I would say it's like, wait, what? Like, I was surprised after the Cousins Day episode that actually happened was having like, oh, Gwen having a cousin named Ella. And I'm like, okay, that's new. Like, I never knew Gwen had a cousin named Ella, but that's fine. And then something really went off of Ella, which you guys might just see that anyways, and then just flips back to the original thing. So about Ella, all I could remember to say that she remembered to become as a dragon. Was, oh man, Gwen and Ella were knocking the heck out of each other before they were out to have like a, I don't know, that Gwen had a smart idea to have a different tactic and try to make Ella even mad, well, she became a dragon. And I'm like, no way. Isn't that real? Which, oh my god, I just didn't even knew. I was like, OMG. That's when I was very surprised to begin with. Even though that there were some times to be go on and go on with was just like, dang, Gwen actually made her mad. And I'm like, ooh, okay. I know where this is going, and I know where this is happening. Which, I mean, okay, I see. And I see. So, all I gotta say about Gwen, I give her, like, amount of credibility that I kind of give Gwen for a 8 out of 10, since I give Gwen 8 out of 10. And then as in for Ella, oh wow. I'm like, I kind of give to the same picture that is actually the same picture of 8 out of 10. So both of them kind of deserved 8 out of 10 since they actually did a very okay in the episode. Well, there was like Cousin's Day. And then there will be another explanation that comes into the exact next same thing with the next episode, or same thing with that one is the exact same thing with Cousin's Day, but we'll find out soon enough. So, as in for Gwen, she gets 8 out of 10, and then as in for Ella, 8 out of 10. So, both of the cousins both get 8 out of 10, and then as in for her parents, well, her parents were kind of a little bit like millennials, exactly like Gwen pointed out for a bit by saying is like her family is like millennials or whatever exactly, but you kind of guys know what I mean about what I actually meant to say. By the chance if I actually did a screw up, then hey, I mean, we make some screw ups some of the time by actually not getting some things right, but there will be some points of being right into other similar characters. So, yes, pretty much. And also, yeah, in the 2000s related, yes, that's probably what I would say. So, for now, guys, all I gotta say for Gwen, she gets an 8 out of 10. And I'll say this that, I'm always pretty much into Gwen and Courtney, just like as myself, Duncan, in the season of the show, that begins from the island all the way from pretty much like from like Total Dramarama. That, oh, yes, to this very day still, I'd say, heck yes. That's all I'd say and will to say. So, let's get to the next person that we'll talk about next. Since we've already talked about Gwen, and then next is Ella, so we've already made both as a combo, so. And then her family, so let's go on with the next person. Alright, so the next person I'll be talking about is Noah. So, about Noah, all I want to talk about is Noah right now, so here's what I'm going to say about this character. So, about the character Noah, I think that Noah actually gone pretty good so far lately in the show. I mean, of course, that he's always a bit honest with his friend Owen, which I don't kind of blame him to be friends with Owen since, like, I don't have anything against Noah, but he seemed to be pretty alright afterwards. And I kind of did remember the fact that Noah was actually pretty cool in some parts of the episode, that he actually was being a bit more honest, and a few other times that I kind of remembered about Noah for some parts of times of reasons. Which, I mean, Noah actually was kind of like a stand up person for some reason, of like, just not to give up on Owen's trust in anything in the show, which I kind of still remember the fact about that. Which, I mean, Noah's still used to that. He didn't care about anybody in the show back in season one, all of the three, after when he pretty much actually wasn't like the greatest person of the season, of like number one, after when he said that he was kind of being a little bit of an attitude afterwards, since like he was kind of more of a wannabe person that just actually just wants to be like the background person and just watch the entire thing go off. Exactly. So he kind of actually was a little bit dishonest from some parts of the season of one, after when he actually pretty much said something back at the dodgeball team thing, after when he, on the other hand, was not getting any good support enough from the other side. Which, I mean, I will kind of actually be leaning on the trust of Owen in this one, actually, since Noah could have been a little bit of a better support, which of course that he wouldn't even care, for example, because he would have been reading a book by saying is like, "Woo, go team, go!" Like, he literally said that. Like, if anybody has actually rewatched that crud, then you probably know why that Noah had a little bit of different sympathy of different times, with him being a bit of a somewhat of a bit of a smart ass for sometimes for a bit or whatever. But into the kid version of Noah, all I gotta think about and say that Noah, the kid version of him, well, he kind of was a little bit more nicer in the season. I think he was a little bit more nicer, which, I mean, dang, I think that Noah actually reached a little bit of a kindness part, that he went into like a kindness thing whenever he went back to being like, I don't know, the kid version of himself, to be a kind person, I think, and start learning how to like treat people with respect. I think that's like the time after when I remember when Lashana back then, that Noah was actually out of the competition, and I'm like, ooh, man, Lashana talked some crap about him right there before he left. Which, I mean, yeah, I mean, I kind of would be a little right for Noah's part for a little bit, which I'm saying I'm not siding with him in this one for like the island thing I'm talking about. I mean, he could have said something else other than that. I mean, yeah, like there was like going to be no brains or no smarts to probably be in the like the whole competition of like the whole thing. Then yeah, Lashana was probably the one who threw all that in Noah's face, for all those marshmallows right in his face. Like, yeah, that's pretty much what was happening. So back to my point. So for Noah, I think all I have to say that Noah was kind of a little bit independent for some times of the season. So I kind of not even blame him for once or whatever. But yeah, Noah was actually kind of like an honest person. Even hell, he was actually a bit more honest, honestly, to be more leaning to pretty much with my character Duncan, which I'm like, dang, that is some respect I can really respect for. That a guy that actually has a little bit of smarts and a little bit of intelligence. For some parts of the fact that Noah was actually a little bit, in some other points of him being awesome into the season that he does, kind of fine. But there are some other times that he does or doesn't care about some similar people, that he pretty much would rather be minding his own business and go somewhere else to probably like do whatever. But if anybody has ever rewatched the season or the show, apparently from the island version or the kid version of the show, that's when you probably might know why about Noah. So again, Noah, I will give him a little bit of a 7 out of 10, since I'm giving him 7 to 10 to be credit. So 7 out of 10. Now, the next person we're going to be talking about next is, let's see. All right. The next person, that is Cody. Well, I probably wasn't going to talk about him next after when I was going to say something else, but I guess I'm probably going to have to be the only one to talk about this guy anyway, since, like, yeah, Cody is a simp. We all know that he's a simp, which I've always have been saying that he's a simp. So let me get on with the point why I'm calling him a simp and just saying that he's pretty bit of a weak and a wimp. And again, I'm not going to talk about the backlash of season 3 because, oh, trust me, season 3 has been dog crap. Literally, like, seriously, literally, been pretty much like that for the whole freaking time. Which, if anybody agrees or disagrees, that's all I'm saying. That I really had said that I've hated some parts of the season that was either like, season 2 I was fine with, but season 3 was a bit of like a waste of some bit of time, and some similar episodes I actually disliked that much. But as in for a few episodes I was fine with, was that it was kind of okay anyway, and a few other episodes. But similar times when it was just Cody, it kind of was stupid, which was very horrible, and I just never liked it anyway to begin with. So about this guy again, that was back to a teenager, all the way down to a kid size. That is Cody. Well, let me tell you, and I mean, let me tell you right now about the kid version of Cody. So, the kid version of Cody. Well, Cody, I think that he's been more likely a person who's been misdisgraded for most times, and been a simp of an idiot, that he's kind of been an idiot for as long as he was ever to be in some other episodes, that he didn't even barely say some names right. That's exactly why I disliked him to most likely be a bit of a dum dum. So here's what I'll say about Cody. So about Cody, well, he kind of was actually strange to kind of begin with for that, and he was kind of a bit strange. Like, he literally wet his pants. Like, we remembered that before, that he wet his pants the whole time. Like, I'm surprised that he barely did this now when he was a kid, and I'm like, man, this is why that he needs to control bladder control. And I'm like, good freaking lord. Like, do we need to hear this so many times? Like, bruh. Like, what is this? Babysitting? Like, man, I don't think his parents ever treat him right to actually just get him to, like, actually just control his bladder. And I'm like, bro, what the frick was that about? I mean, trust me, what the actual frick was that about? Like, what kind of simp just bladders his own pants when he does it in front of most likely, I remember what some time ago back into like the island, that afterwards that in the other side of the team, that, oh yes, Cody wasted his time by doing that when he was literally scared by a freaking bear that turns out to be Izzy. Like, oh god. Like, oh my god. I just cannot believe to remember why, how stupid he even was. And even heck, that was even pretty stupid actually. Like, I don't know what Cody was ever thinking, because seriously, I would rather been like pretty much been like somebody else by saying is like, a person says like that one time in a different movie that says like, that boy ain't right. Or whatever that person says or whatever, but again, exactly. All I can say again from this guy, Cody, he is kind of a bit of a scaredy cat, if you know what I'm talking about. That he was literally a scaredy cat by being afraid of literally anything. And I'm like, what kind of person gets afraid like that and starts to be screaming for no reason? Like, again, that is so odd. Like, it's just so odd to me. Even though I was actually pretty much not enjoying it either. Which, seriously, again, you guys will be seeing that as my face. Like, seriously, whenever I was just sitting there like that, and I'm like, you guys probably will see the next picture you'll see anyway, and then just flips back to itself anyway, but yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So, the next thing that I hate about Cody was that he was not even a kid. He was an alien. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, what? Since when did Cody became not even that normal? And I'm like, seriously? Like, man, this is exactly why I despise Cody for being a complete weirdo. Like, seriously, he was a literally a weirdo. Like, how many times are we gonna keep seeing him being a weirdo? Literally many times to be a weirdo. Like, again, there are gonna be sometimes that we can accept some people that might be or not so much to be, but this kind of Cody is not normal. And can anybody please tell me how that's normal? Like, for him being a complete alien of a weirdo. Like, a few Coney's were named Planet Coney for some reason. I'm like, huh? Who names a planet called Planet Cody? That actually literally makes no sense. It literally makes no sense. And I so despise the fact every time that Cody was always a weirdo. Like, again, it's always funny when it was me actually just beating up the simp, which was even pretty funnier anyway to just enjoy the entire funniness. But after when Cody keeps screwing up the whole time, then oh yeah, I so hated when he actually throwed a few some things back at me. For sometimes whenever it was like my guy Duncan was just like, oh my god. Like, I really just had no exact why for exactly talking about that. So, again, I give Cody a 3 out of 10. I'm sorry to be a hater of Cody, of an anti-hater of Cody, but all I'm saying again, that this dude was never to be normal to begin with. He literally was afraid of some parts of the things that he was afraid. And also, hey, it's the fact of the truth. You don't like handling it? Then don't even try to watch it. So, again, Cody was a weirdo and was a simp and pretty much wants to be. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to probably just say. And speaking of what I'm going to just say now, I'm going to talk about my character that is Duncan, since that's what I'm going to talk about next. And then talk about the next character that isn't going to probably be that bad as much as to be. So, anyway, let's talk about my favorite character, my very main character, number one character, Duncan. And then plus, as Owen, he was more likely my main second to begin with. So let's go on and talk about Duncan, the kid version of Duncan. So let's go ahead and talk about that, shall we? Alright, so we're gonna pretty much talk about my favorite character, my favorite delinquent, my favorite awesome character from Total Drama. Now it's gonna be in Total Dramarama is Duncan. That's right, my favorite guy, my main first of all time is Duncan. So what I'm gonna have to say about my favorite character, Duncan, well, I have to say that my character had the greatest moments, or should I say some moments, I had ever seen in season 1 to 3, which I gotta say, not gonna lie, but I gotta say, when it comes to say how awesome my character is, it's just that, man, it gets so much better in each other time in a row. Especially that there were some good moments of the character of my favorite character of Duncan that was apparently to pretty much be in the show of like season 1 to 3. All I gotta say and think about in the matter of the fact that, well, it's just pretty amazing once I actually do think about it. Like, it's actually pretty amazing by seeing my favorite character being like the most awesome character at the entire time of the show. Like, even though, again, it's always pretty funny when my guy always like tortures Harold and then Cody and then some similar people sometimes, especially again, it's kind of pretty good actually. It always gets pretty good. Especially, I don't kind of like blame my guy Duncan, and then don't even blame Courtney, which I don't blame none of them. I have to say that some of those were actually my favorites anyway. Like, let's just say that, man, Duncan on the other hand was actually hilarious again when Chef was always the one who probably gets, I don't know, gets a little bit blamed on some parts that after when he says like, "Oh no, my car." Like, seriously, that joke of saying my car is actually funny, but when Chef screams it, like, bruh, it gets so funny after when his car literally gets blown up so many purposely amount of times. Like, bruh, it's just so funny. Like, literally funny. Like, this is exactly why I like my favorite character from, like, Total Drama on the Island, and then from like Total Dramarama just into now exactly, which all I have to say, man, it was amazing. Like, literally amazing. And also, if anybody has told me this question by saying is like, hey, Devin-Foxy Remastered, what character do you think who even wins better, Scott or Lightning? Well, the only thing I have to say in the matter of the fact that, well, I think I'd kind of go with Lightning. other than Scott. Because the only thing why I'm saying Lightning, by the way, is just because I think that he was better than Scott in comparison. That's all I kind of think about. Even though the teen version of Lightning doesn't know that there was a girl exactly, and I'm like, bruh, you kidding me? Like, you literally kidding me just now. And we're going to get back to the focus with Duncan for a bit. So I have to say about Duncan, man, awesome, badass, literally amazing. In similar episodes that comes along to be in some numbers of the episodes. But when I say some are good, then some of them are good. But when I say some of them are not good, then they're not good. In some parts of the episodes between from like good to bottom, then yeah, pretty much. So again, I don't mind it. I don't mind like the comparisons with Duncan and Courtney. I think I don't blame none of those, especially when some of them are actually pretty well topped in moments. Actually, by seeing Duncan and Courtney being like an awesome awesome friendish, and then pretty much as a couple, by seeing both of that in comparison. But like I said, I always lean to Courtney and Gwen when it's actually both. Like, here's this example. When Courtney is with Duncan, oh yeah, I would say yes. But when it's Gwen next with Duncan, I'd also say the exact same question is yes. So that's pretty much has been like my entire way was saying is just that, yeah, that's probably what I would say. And what has been like the favoriteest moment of Duncan? Well, it's because I like the fact when he starts like exploding like literally amount of like Chef's car, and then tries to get Chef in trouble for so many times to keep going after my guy Duncan for many times in a row. And I'm like, bruh. Like, seriously, I have always liked this character, and I've always had. As a kid version of him, and then the teen version of him as well, which I don't kind of blame both concepts by having, like, the versions between kid version to a teen version. So, yeah, that's what I would say. But, anyways, let's just get to the next character. Oh, by the way, if you guys still don't get it, by the way, back in the island when again, it was a real thing. That Cody and Noah were actually a thing. And I'm like, what? Since when was this a thing? And I'm like, of course, again, that is completely gay. And I'm like, bro, what the frick was that? I mean, seriously, Noah would rather been with his own person. And so would that stupid simp. Again, completely idiotic. Which, again, I don't blame Noah, which, again, I have no hate against Noah. I mean, sometimes I might give him a little bit of the yee-ho for sometimes, for some parts of a bit. But when it's always Cody, oh yeah, that's when I'll give him the knockout for the fist. So, yeah, that's kind of what I would say right now. So, here's the next character we're going to get on to. So here's my reason why about Harold. Now, about Harold, I actually am going to have to put my sense on exactly of why I despise Harold, which again we've always have been talking about that for so many times. Even hell, I even will make it like a top 10 hated list, which I don't know if I could ever do that, which again, it's gonna probably like be the new feature or something, but yeah, we don't know lately. We just really don't know what goes on next because I mean, there's gonna be lots of things to go on for. Like going on, and blah 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 blah. So about Harold, okay. So I've already had to say again, I've already despised Harold is because the reason why I've despised Harold and despised him being a nerd is because, well, he is kind of awkward at times. Which, even though he might be smart or not to be smart, but all I could say about Harold is just that, yeah, he's kind of an idiot. And, like the exact number that's going to be Cody. But Harold is more similar to Cody anyway, but all I gotta say about Harold is just that yeah, he's kind of a dumb nerdly, because he's just a dumb nerd and just actually continues to be that stupid. Which, I mean, I still side with Duncan anyway, because hell yeah, I'd still do. Because, I mean, do I actually would rather switch sides? No. I'd stay more likely to be Duncan, thank you very much. But again, to the question about Harold, Yeah, in the island, I've already hated Harold was because, well, he thinks he was going to be near with Courtney until the wrong answer was just, eh. Exactly. That's the point where I'm going to say that, yeah, at least I have to say it's a good thing that Courtney never even attends going on with Harold because, bruh, the only funny joke I laughed about when it was in the island was that the underwear was covered in chocolate, even though if it was a reverse joke by saying it would took like a dump in the underwear, and I'm like I laughed at that one so much, and it was actually funny. Like even though I actually like Jeff and DJ, like seriously, they were actually pretty chill. Like they were actually pretty chill for once. And I actually like the surfer dude, and then the guy who pretty much is kind of an okay person. That is DJ. But trust me, I've always have to say that it was actually pretty funny of a good moment by having that reason. So hey, I mean, bros for life. Actually, like bros for life. So yeah, at least good thing that Harold would rather stay near with Lashana because trust me, I had pretty much had always had kind of hated Harold back from season one, which oh yes, definitely hated him right there and there. If that wasn't from season two, well, I gotta say it was even more funnier to make fun of Harold at some points of the time back when it was that one in season two. And then like in season three, back pretty much when Harold wasn't even that usefully to bother me anyway, because trust me, I have to say, good. At least I don't have to suffer any more from the stupid nerdling Harold until the simpy Cody that was a simp continues to be a simp for the exact question. It stopped saying it's like, dude, stop simping for Gwen for crying out loud. Like seriously, just be with Sierra, bruh. Like, how stupid can a guy actually never surrenders to go on and just accepts the horrible truth to go on with Sierra? Like, we both know from two different things. Is just, come on. Like, really, come on. So, all I gotta say about Harold that we're gonna get back to anyway is that, yes, one, I've already hated Harold in not in Total Drama Island. I'm not talking about that kind of one right now. We're only currently focusing about like Total Dramarama, for example. Is that yes, Harold I've already hated before once or many times before that he gets to be a dork and a doofus that I've always had to say that was even better to call him that because he was funnier anyway. So yeah, I kind of give Harold more of a let's see. I'd kind of give him more of a 5 out of 10 since I'm kind of giving Harold more of a 5 out of a 10. So, yeah, there you go. I think I consider to have it as a 5 out of 10. So, there you go. Anyway, next character. Let's get into the next character, who that one even is. Let's go. All right, so the character I'm going to talk about next is Bridget. So, Bridget. Well, how do I say about Bridget? Well, the question I want to talk about Bridget is that, well, I think she was an okay character, which I have to say that, well, I kind of would agree with Bridget, actually, after when she said that last part, after when back at like the last one of season three, before like the special was done, I was like, yeah, Bridget had kind of never gotten any camera time anymore, which was kind of ruthless a bit. Which I don't kind of blame people for saying is like, oh, why are you defending Bridget? Well, the reason I am probably having a little bit of sense for Bridget is because she kind of deserves to have more camera time in the show. Like, even though that more likely that there should have been like some characters to be more timing in the show that could have been more efficient and more fixed, like having characters to be in from like this one to that one and this one and from there. Like I'm just kind of a little bit concerned to the fact that Bridget should have had more camera time and had more timing with the episode, that Bridget should have been really been right there to be in which episode that Bridget should have been and where at the times that she could have been. Like I don't blame Bridget. I mean Bridget's like a nice person to begin with since like yeah, I kind of did remember back when she used to be a teen version of herself. I mean, yeah, I don't blame Bridget or Jeff since like what side am I kind of on? Jeff. The reason why I'm kind of siding with Jeff is because I kind of like the guy who's pretty much like a cowboy for a little bit and just like a party dude because I kind of like the dude who has a party because he likes to throw parties. Because like, trust me, I kind of would say that. And then I don't blame the other side that comes from Bridget. That even though she's a surfer, that pretty much goes into the water and the surfing on the surfing thing in the beach, which I don't blame Bridget to begin with either. So that's kind of my only sense I actually want to throw into this reason and just say that Bridget deserves some camera time to be in every each some of the time at the show. That depends from 1, 2, and 3, and then maybe on some specials, I think. But my point is to Bridget that people should have like really would have think about having Bridget to kind of be in some similar parts of the thing, so that way that she could have like more timing with people and have more different, better reasons to have her being around into the season of Total Dramarama. So yeah, that's probably what I would say. So I kind of would have to give for Bridget. She kind of gets more to have like a 9 out of 10, because the reason why I'm giving her a 9 out of 10 is because I kind of give her a little bit amount of defense for her being supposed to probably like been in more episodes than regular, but I think more people kind of focused having like more people than more than Bridget to be around. So yeah, I kind of give her more of a 9 out of 10 to have more of respect for having Bridget to be in some other parts of episodes that she could have been there, but some others I'd say correctly, and some others I probably won't. So there you go. That's my opinion about Bridget. So she has a 9 out of 10 thing for me to rate about Bridget. Alright, so let me explain about Lashana. So, the next person we're going to talk about is Lashana. So, back in the island again, like always, like every time. So, when Lashana was a teen, I think I have to say Lashana was kind of more likely a pushover, and some other times when it's just always like about like the person trying to be like all friendly and trying to be all talk and most likely all points of explanations about all that. Now, let me just go on and say that, well, I kind of nearly go on and dislike Lashana when it's just always about, like, her going after my character, actually, like fist fighting, and most times to be argued, to get pounded in the sand, I think. But the only problem I want to talk about, further, even what point I'm going to make, is that Lashana actually used to keep beating up Heather, which was even hilarious. Even hell, it was actually funny. Like, it was actually pretty funny by watching that over and over and over. Like, it was so funny to watch. Like, trust me, whenever there's like a pound fight in there, oh yeah, that pound fight is actually pretty funny. Like seeing which one's who's gonna get pound first in the face. Which, I mean, Lashana was right in most other points, which she was actually right back in the island when it was just pretty better by seeing Lashana try to deal with Heather by having a good reason to do that. And then it comes to back to then again with Lashana going to pound my guy Duncan for the exact different reason, but it isn't just was about the Heather thing. It was only about when it was different. Like seriously, again, Lashana was kind of alright in which part she was alright back in the island, but now when it was in the kid version, when Lashana still used to be like seen as like, ooh, I get to be all rich and get to have diamonds. I get to go and do whatever I want. Well, the only thing that is pretty stupid is a little bit of a sour attitude. I kind of would dislike Lashana in a different similar format of a way by having a little bit what reason I could be going for is like saying it's like, now just don't get all mad just because sometimes there's different facts about like having my character Duncan that would be liking to dislike on different things with different characters that has different formats than mine of whatever that is to be. So yeah, I kind of say Lashana, she kind of deserves to be more of a 6 of a 10. Which I'm not saying that she gets a 10. I'm just saying that she gets more of a 6 out of a 10, I think. Like, when she starts being all like the good person, she continues to be the heartless, a little bit of evil sometimes. When I remember back then, whenever like, oh, the characters had to be pretty much in some kind of television. By scenes like, after when stupid Cody's grandfather had like passed away and stuff. That's when Lashana was all up for herself, but no fairness to anybody. Like, literally anybody. Even though my character Duncan I don't kind of blame my guy for a bit for just having a different thing with that, but it was just currently about mainly Lashana just like, oh, wanting to get all gold and all money because she just thinks that she's wanting to be rich sometime. Like, yeah, I don't even want to even ask the entire full detail. But if anybody was smart to actually fully give me like a full explanation answer of why I'm like having a bit of a different opinion towards differently, having a different example, that's when I could have like an exact smart person to notify and have like a transcript for having that explanation reason. So that's what I might have to say about Lashana. Now, the next character we're going to go on and next and talk about the next person is. Wait for it. Alright. The next favorite character I'm going to talk about is Courtney. So, here's my couple of cents of why I have to think that about Courtney. Well, let's just say that I have to say Courtney was pretty amazing in the show, which I mean, actually will give some credit for Courtney for actually being like pretty good for most other similar reasons that Courtney was actually pretty good. Like, the very best character I would have to say that I even will give more likely credit for having her to be 9 to be out of 10, which there was only like a few similar problems about Courtney at some times that, well, you know, I mean, all I gotta say that Courtney was a pretty smart person, which I actually do say that she was amazing, back then in the island, which, didn't cause any hate back then in the island, which didn't even cause any bit of hate. But the only problem that did cause only a bit of hate when it was back in season 2 and 3, and then, oh yeah, maybe around 5, actually, whenever it was just a little bit of a refix up for number 5. Which, again, we all don't want to talk about number 5 because number 5 is a complete waste of a you know what in the entire way of that in the way ever. So, Courtney, I have to say, she was pretty amazing. I mean, I like Courtney being a little confident in times with similar people being in the show. Which, oh, trust me, I laughed at some points of Courtney actually being pretty awesome and hilarious at the same time. So, yeah, whenever it's like the fact after you know, after when Courtney was actually talking about MacArthur actually being like saying is like Courtney actually just wanted like some sprinkles in the ice cream. Like, oh my god, I barely laughed a lot after that happened, and I'm like, like I seriously actually get to the fact of why how I thought it was funny, but you know, like I did laugh. Like it was that funny. I think it was funny. So, in most points I'd say about Courtney was awesome. I gotta give most likely the best credit for Courtney that she was pretty good, and I kind of give her freaking 9 out of 10 because I just kind of give her 9 out of 10 for most likely the best character in the show. And also, even hell, I even say Courtney's like the best, like, number one contestant, like the favorite Total Drama Girls in the season. Like, all I gotta say, I'm more of kind of a Courtney and Gwen that I kind of would go for. Especially to say that Courtney and Gwen are even better, as more likely to be some kind of rival and then some best with a little bit friends that I kind of would go on for. But all I might say right now, everybody, is that I don't blame Courtney for like whatever it's gonna be. But sometimes Courtney might be sometimes a little bit sass, if you know what I'm talking about. Which that you might have to probably might see for yourselves on the show if anybody has or not been particular to look at it. And that's exactly sometimes the point where I might go on and explain that sometimes, well, I kind of say Courtney was even better apparently, and even heck, I like saying whoever was better than between which one from ever from season 2. I'd rather to be Courtney or Beth. Well, Courtney actually. Yes, I'd say I lean on Courtney than Beth. Because I mean, trust me, when I had to face Beth in season 2, as my favorite guy is Duncan, to go on and fight against Beth in the finale, trust me, I had to go on and say that, well, I think Courtney was just better than Beth, even though that she did got tossed, and so did Owen, which was kind of another something that happened. But you know, that's probably what happened. But at least I say I'm lucky that Duncan only wins season 2, which I always will remember and will remember one day and always will remember that. So you're welcome for generation to generation. So yeah, I gotta say I give Courtney the best amount of rounds of applause for her being amazing, which I might kind of give a little bit of sense of points that I kind of give Courtney a bit of awesomeness. So yeah, that's probably what I'd say about Courtney. So anyway, continue, and let's see who else is going to be next. All right, so let's talk about Beth from pretty much like Total Drama Rama. So let's go on and talk about the teen version about Beth. Okay, so about Beth, she is kind of like a friendly and nice person in the show. Apparently, that she was all nice and stuff. Like, I mean, for Beth, I think that Beth was getting along with some people, back in the island and some others, which it turns out that Beth was kind of pretty nice back in season one. But oh, here's the truth and hard and darkest part is that when Beth in season two was comparing the face against my guy in the finale, bruh, Beth was not nice. After when she did not deserve to give anybody cookies. And I'm like, ooh, Beth is not winning the $1,000,000. Which, seriously, that brought my attention a little close, and I'm like, wait, you serious? Beth was not nice after when she never wanted to receive the cookies? Like, how do you even do that? Like, seriously, how can you, like, literally get away with that absolute answer when that was a little bit stupid? Like, I don't get why Beth had to go through all the troubles of trying to win the $1,000,000 after she continued to keep secretly not trying to be friends with some people. Beforehand, that actually before like exposed them out of anybody else. And I'm like, dang. Like seriously. I'm like, wow. As a teen version, that's just wow. That is like literally dark. And I mean, after when in season three that Beth learned her lesson to be nice, well, yeah. I mean, she kind of deserved to be going back to nice otherwise, but yeah, that's fine by me. I mean, that's totally fine by me. And then actually, I did remember when season two, after when Lashana kind of actually exposed everybody else, and I'm like, yeah, that there was not cool from what Lashana did either. So I probably would be the only one expecting the question, by however that everybody else were all pretty mad at Lashana for simple of the fact by having everybody's secrets being completely tossed in the dumpster and literally kind of got like the whole truth out by that exact dark moment out there. And I was like, wow, that was not cool. After when she went to the spa treatment and stuff, after when she had to literally talk to Isquenia or whatever that was, like, yeah, that probably would have been the case, but otherwise. But let's just focus with the current fact about Beth. So, again, in the kid version, when Beth was in the kid version, that, well, as in from like Beth as in a kid version, let's just say that things with Beth actually were pretty fine in some parts of the occasion. But oh, when it's just her facing against my character, oh, we get back to facing each other so many times. Like, even heck, it was even ridiculous that I don't know why so many characters were actually literally going after my guy Duncan for so many different defaults. That some others had different defaults that other characters didn't. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much a little bit nostalgically different, as I would have like had something differently and whatever. But yeah, that's probably what I would say right now. So if anybody actually does or doesn't know, to rewatch like season 1 and 2 and 3 by actually seeing what happened with a few other characters went good or bad, then that's probably what you might have to do for just to rewatch some of the episodes that you might have to do otherwise. So yeah, that's probably best for everybody. That, well, she kind of would have deserved to have her own lesson to be taught as a lesson by actually just deserving to be a bit more nice back in like season two. But unfortunately, after when the secret development revealed, after when she actually literally just said in the TV screen in the aftermath that, oh yeah, she got red-handed caught red-handed right in the flag. And I'm saying is like, Oh boy. I mean, that's pretty much when my guy Duncan gets to win the season. And I'm like, hell to the yes. Like, it was pretty easy. Like, literally easy. Like, it wasn't so incompetent. It was just like the most easiest win I would have ever said. But if anybody does want to look at the revealed truth by Beth, what she even said on that television in the season 2 of the finale, oh, you should see that. You really should see that what Beth even really said. Like, yeah, that's pretty much a big no-no. Anyway, what kind of do I actually give Beth to for 1 out of 10? Let's just say I kind of give Beth more of a. Let's just say I kind of give Beth more of a similar kind of like a 6 out of 10. Since Beth was kind of more a little bit okay in some other times, but when it's just Beth and Courtney, I kind of would always side with Courtney because I'd say Courtney was a better choice than Beth. So again, that's all I'm gonna probably say for the example matter. But yeah, that's just what I say. Anyway, let's just continue. The next one that we're going to talk about either is going to be Owen and then the other guy, which I'm going to probably talk about Owen next. So roll the clip and let's get on to Owen. All right, the next person I'm going to talk about is Owen, my favorite second character of the show. Now, if anybody does or doesn't know how Owen was funny, well, let's just say that Owen had lots of similar jokes that were pretty much in the show. Like, yeah, I gotta say, I give Owen a lot of credit in season 1 that he was pretty amazing. Like, seriously, he was literally amazing. Even though that he did have to go this far in the island, have to face, like, I don't know, it had to come down to pretty much my guy, Duncan, or Heather, or pretty much Gwen for that matter. So all I have to say from Owen is that, seriously, he was like a true champ. Like, literally the best guy I had ever seen. Like he actually wins the million. Like he literally won that last time. Like I'm like, oh okay, okay. That's where it tells me about Owen. So about Owen, let's just say that he's always been my favorite secondary character in the show. Like he's been like the favorite of all time in the row. Like even heck, I have to say that Owen and pretty much my guy Duncan make like a combo, like literally the best combo in different similar combos I would ever have to say. But I'll say that Owen is an amazing character and was actually pretty funny. And even though that people did call Owen that he was like the fun house, which you know, he kind of was actually the fun house. That he actually just wants to like cheer everybody up to actually be even more happier and funnier. Like it kind of gets everybody to enjoy the good moment about Owen. That actually makes it even better to watch. Even though I actually will admit that Owen, it goes to the same thing with Noah about the trust with their friendship. That I don't kind of blame Owen having to be friends with Noah anyway. But the only thing I actually enjoyed about was just Duncan and Owen for like having like a good friendship. That's some parts of it, and some others pretty much not. So I think Owen was the best character of exactly the best time. So I gotta give him 10 out of 10. Even though he was pretty joyful for many times at the beginning of season 1, after when it was just only his first episode about like, oh, he has to go after like it was his ball actually, like chasing the one ball that he found in the crane machine and just got it from like that. And I like literally have watched most of the episodes when it's just all about like Owen from the first episode, and then it was just like the rest of everybody else actually getting their own kind of spirit episodes and just having some of them that were fun. So when I think about Owen was well done and well amazing, that I kind of give this guy absolutely the best perfect performance I ever give for Owen. So yeah, Owen is clean to me. So he's amazing and the best character I had ever seen. Even though he still will be again my second character, I give him 10 out of 10. Literally just that example. As I'm giving him 10 out of 10. There you go. Literally 10 out of 10. So that's just what I want to talk about Owen and see what I have to say about him, and that's just what I would say. Now, anyway, that's just what I want to say about Owen, which even though I did kind of forgot a little bit about a few things that, well, I kind of did remember that Owen back in season 2 that he was kind of a spy. that kind of worked for like Chris. That he wanted like Chris actually still wanted Owen to sabotage the rest of the team. Even heck, my guy Duncan to be sabotaged. And I mean, bro, that was not cool. Like literally not cool. But I mean, if it was Owen's choice anyway, then it probably had to be his choice anyway to sabotage, which I'm not saying with that kind of diluted answer by doing it, by saying how Owen is doing that, which again, it's just wow. Just wow. Anyway, that's just what I want to give my sense about Owen, and I still give him 10 out of 10 for like his best episodes to kind of be funny. So again, yeah. Anyways, let's get to the next character that we're going to talk about, and yeah, and don't forget that we're going to also be talking about Max. That will actually be the exact same question. So yeah, after when we're done talking about the next character that will be Max, then we can get to the next person who is pretty much from the very beginning that we just did from the very beginning that we just talked about afterwards, like going through like the long amount of hours of the video about me explaining about how some of the characters were good and some of them were not. So let's continue along and talk about like Max from Pocket Tail Island. Alright, so let's talk about Max. That it's still gonna be more likely a little bit Owen for a little bit of the reunion of the cousins. And it comes to the exact same question with Gwen. And then with Ella. That yeah, it pretty much is the exact same thing, but it's kind of more different by now having Max to be in Total Dramarama. And I mean, hell, I actually remembered him back in Pocket Tail after when I actually talked about Max. I'm like, yeah, Max used to be pretty smart, intelligent of an evil supervillain, but until then he already got kicked off the island, and then also had his assistant that got shot off the cannon. Like exactly after when that was happening and after they're out. Like I was like, dang, that's nuts. Like that's exactly pretty nuts exposure after when Max actually admits to be sent to the cannon. Which I mean, I know he didn't ever say that, but I'm still saying that he was exactly when Chris was said that he's already done for evil. I'm like, dang, Chris just sends him to the cannon after when it was like a teen version of Max. But when it comes to the kid version of Max, I'm like, huh, this makes more sense to have him to be Owen's cousin. That makes sense because I can tell why about like the hair and then with the everything else that they wear. I'm like, dang. I have to say that Max with purple hair, I'm like, that's pretty neat. I mean, I never seen most people have like different colored hair. That I even seen most people wear like different colors like red, green, yellow, or blue, which I'm not that very familiar with, and even orange, for example. I'm not very familiar with different hair colors that I probably would ever kind of see for like having different opinions about those. But again, all I could say about Max was that he kind of was at very a little bit okay from some starts, that he was still trying to be evil. But after when he starts to try to torment like my character and then Harold and then Beth, I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm good. Like even though I did said fine, I actually did join Max, the side for evil. Then that's pretty much what was going on. Even at hell, Courtney and Bridget and pretty much like Gwen actually were joining with Ella. That actually were pretty much to be like, oh, doing some different familiar stuff. Until Owen had to keep convincing to keep stopping from Max from doing like simple stupid things before anything else went danger. It went even going on apparently about that. So that's what was going on about how Max continues to try to be the exact same supervillain. That even if it was in the same island as a different island that was in Pocket Tail, but it went different in preschool, in a different way, in a different school, in a different kind of universe. But yeah, that pretty much went on and on after when Max still continues to do so. So yeah, that's probably what happened about when Max was doing that. So anyway, let's talk about the next character that we'll have on screen. Is pretty much the guy who did voice Chris McClane after when I am about to start mentioning that now exactly again. So here we go. Let's get on to the next character, as we should. Alright, so in my example, the next sense I wanted to talk about is Jude. So, Jude from Total Dramarama. And then from like another show as well, that Jude was in 2 shows. I'm like, dang, did this dude really actually win in 2 shows? Like, that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't blame the guy that is Jude, but to be frankly honest, that well, Jude is a pretty cool guy and a very chill person. I mean, I've always would say Jude is a pretty intelligent person, but who even knows? I mean, what the heck? I mean, Jude is pretty cool. I mean, he's very cool with similar people, that he's pretty awesome at some points. But, I think I have to kind of give a guy that actually had a hat and then wears like an interesting shirt is a pretty intelligent person. And then actually a little bit smart from time to time. That Jude, oh my gosh, like he literally was in 2 shows. After when I actually confirmed and found that Jude was pretty much in 2 shows, either from him being in Total Dramarama and then from pretty much likely to be in, yeah, pretty much from the other side. So, all I can say, by the way, is that, yeah, pretty much. And also, by the way, I'm just going to kind of pretend that I actually will dislike Jude from pretty much from like Gwen kissing Jude right there, because I mean, yeah. I mean, pretty much to be formally being actually the one judging is that, yeah, it kind of got me a little ticked about having like Jude kissing Gwen, and I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, wait, what was going on right there? Like, I was literally kind of like having a little bit of a confused reason about talking about that one. Was about like Jude kissing Gwen on the cheek, and I mean, yeah, I don't really know, or even that was pretty much like Gwen kissing him on the cheek, though. But I think it was only Gwen. After when I actually will reverse my word anyway for what I'm gonna say now, it's just that, man, I don't get why that was impossible for having that reason. I mean, another person would have rather kissed Jude in the cheek anyway, other than Gwen, and then not to be Gwen or Courtney, because that's still a no way. That will be no way. And I mean, somebody else would have done that already, but who knows? Again, I mean, who really knows? But let's just get on with the other parts of the fact about Jude. Is that, well, he was pretty cool after when he still was friends with Owen with the big dot with the big O, which I was like, nice. I mean, that's a pretty good coincidence. That's pretty amazing. And then after when Jude starts to continue being nice with people, I actually have to say that he was pretty awesome when he gets to say the word dude. And I'm like, wait, the dude actually started referring to Chris McClain? What? I was like, no way did Chris McClain had another voice act that pretty much had to voice act this guy named Jude. And then, of course, the host of himself, that is Chris McClain. And I'm like, wow, who knew that there was both alikes that were so different with each other? But not the same way, but just different. I heard the word, saying the word, dude. Like, Chris only says the word dude before so many times when he gets to say that. Like, sometimes, but you may have to rewatch that until you guys might hear the word when Jude said was like saying the word dude. Like, he wouldn't stop saying the word dude, and some other times by whatever the question even was. Even heck, I remember in that Jelly episode, a jealousy episode thing, when Jude actually couldn't even say one simple thing by actually not saying the word dude all the time. Until I remember that favorite part between my guy Duncan and then Jude himself. Like, how crazy was that? Like, how attempting crazy was that? So that's just pretty much what I have to say. And as for Jude, I'd kind of give him 8 out of 10 since I'm kind of actually bringing him to more of a 8 out of 10. So that's probably what I would kind of give for my advice and a little bit of my sense about Jude being more of a 8 out of 10. And then I was surprised that the same voice actor who does Chris McClain actually gets to do this guy. Like, that's pretty insane. That's actually pretty insane. Which I'm saying it in a good way, not to be in a bad way, but I'm just saying that's nuts. That I'd never noticed or even memorized how that just happened. And I'm like, huh, okay. I'm like, okay. So let's get to the next person that we're going to talk about is MacArthur. But yeah, we're gonna have to talk about MacArthur next, and then we'll talk about like the two other children that we'll talk about next. Before we kind of actually may actually have some few mentions before I actually will tell everybody. Like, we're gonna just probably be like, giving some a little bit of advice for a little bit. We might actually see for a bit, like whenever people gets to like rewatch the show again, or if not, that's fine. But I only want to give everybody's advice that there will probably be more characters that were made to be hidden, or a little bit of some surprise characters in some points of episodes. Which, if anybody has or has not watched the episode, then I consider you guys go ahead and watch it. So, next we're going to talk about is MacArthur. So, let's go ahead and talk about her right now. So, here we go. Alright, so the next person we're going to be talking about is MacArthur. So, MacArthur, I have to say, when she was back in the race that we did remember talking about, like, Total Drama, Redunculous Race, which, oh, trust me, we've barely just talked about that before. Like, man, it's been a while of a long time since I've actually mentioned the race about with, like, the Redunculous Race. Like, even though I did got some names incorrected sometimes, which, hey, I mean, we all make sometimes of incorrected names sometimes, but, we might get through most of that someday, or maybe just not, but that's fine either way. So let's go on and talk about MacArthur. So about MacArthur, by the way, I actually just want to let everybody else know that, well, in the race, MacArthur used to be a cadet of a police officer, along with Sanders. That is pretty much with the other female cadet. That, yeah, pretty much of like most likely most of the police cadets that were pretty much like two women that were pretty much competing to go on to win like the $1,000,000 until they had to go on and face my guys, the Surfer Brothers. I've always like more like leaning to Jeff, because I actually kind of have my two predictions of liking my two favorites who could have won the million. Either would have been Owen and Noah again, which still considers Owen winning twice, the second time of him winning twice. Or it could probably have been Jeff, the Surfer Bro, and his other guy, Brody, which I remember a time that MacArthur and Brody were pretty much like getting along with each other, and I'm like, huh. I wonder where Brody is now, after when that was going on for some quiet time now. But the only good question is about MacArthur that, oh yeah, she had lots and lots of much of jobs. Like, she has lots of jobs. Like, I could really would have been fortunate by saying that MacArthur had lots of jobs. And I actually was pretty surprised by seeing how the way how MacArthur was pretty much insisted to be either many of the jobs by many precision roles as from much times of the show. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy, man. That's like very crazy by having like MacArthur to be either like, you know, being like a engineer, being like a smoothie maker, dentist, or pretty much whatever, how many jobs she even been. But the only good question is to her right now that I kind of think that MacArthur did an alright job, which I'm not saying she did kind of alright, but I kind of gave her similar at 8. 8 out of 10. That I kind of give MacArthur 8 out of 10 because most likely her performance in some parts of the show that actually gave her a little bit of respect in some parts of the time while she continued to be in the show to keeps existing in some parts of the episode that just gets a little bit somewhere to be more fortunately better. But the only question that MacArthur didn't do so well in the race was just risking her own partner's life by breaking her freaking arm after when Sanders started to scream the heck out of it. Like, MacArthur learned a real big lesson. A huge lesson that nobody shouldn't do. Exactly, when it's too far or too much. Like, seriously, that is not a very good punishment. Like, seriously, it just really isn't. Like, continuing to do all that is just hurtful and very ruthless at the same time. Even though that MacArthur was more likely the lady boss, that like Miss Lady Boss, that pretty much she used to be like the only one just like seen as like, alright, Sanders, you go arrest these ice dancers. Like, apparently that's the only question I actually would be wanting to hear about. So, anyway, that's just my kind of answer that I kind of give MacArthur more of an 8 out of 10. So, let's get on with the next person we're going to talk about is Lightning. All right, roll the clip, everybody. Roll the clip for the next person we're going to talk about is Lightning. All right, so the next person we're going to talk about is Lightning, known as Jockstrap, or pretty much like the jockey or football jock. So let's talk about Lightning, for example. So, about this character back in the island of season 4, well, Lightning actually was pretty stupid from the beginning. After when he was getting a little bit awesomer, and a few other times that Lightning wasn't even eliminated for twice out of the different reason that, well, Sam, on the other hand, would have almost been close to being getting Fat Straw out of here exactly before Lightning would have not been kicked out to the curb. But until then, yeah, Lightning was pretty lucky to be actually being not kicked out before you know what exactly that happened. And I'm like, dude, that's some crazy crap going on there, man. After when we all heard about the ice challenge that was even going on basically for that reason. So if you probably know why, then that's when you might know. And then as in for Lightning, well, as into like the finale when Lightning was facing against Cameron, my money was on Lightning. I'd say is that yeah, Lightning deserves to win the $1 million. Like I think Lightning was kind of confused at some points of him being a complete goofball and being a complete simpleton for kind of misdirect by saying it's like, a girl. That Lightning doesn't even know a girl. Like, seriously. I like the fact when Joe, J-O, actually just said the word by saying that she's a girl. And I'm like, oh, like that's when I laughed at that hard and I'm like, damn. Like in the high horse. And I'm like, holy crap. Like that's when I laughed that hard after when that happened. And I'm like, oh god. Yeah, Lightning definitely got some feedback in his face until he actually starts learning what the girl even means. And I'm like, finally, bro. Finally. I'm like, thank God. Lightning could have ever would have fixed his own tone. But until words, yeah. That's pretty much what I would say. Now, let's talk about the kid version of Lightning. So, about the kid version of Lightning, he was kind of like an all awesome out of like a superstar. I think more of a football star. I think after when he received to try to win the $1 million, I mean, not $1 million. Blah, sorry, meant to say was not $1 million. I meant to say that the kid version of Lightning was pretty much like a football star and was actually pretty nice to everybody else, but except the fact that, well, it was kind of pretty stupid and obvious that I never knew Lightning was actually siding with Cody. And I'm like, come on. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you seriously kidding me just now? Like, you seriously kidding me? Like, again, I don't get why Lightning thinks Cody's like, oh, he's all special and stuff, when it's pretty stupid. Like, again, I don't exactly know why that was even to begin with, but again, yeah. I kind of did say that I did think that Lightning, the version of the kid version of himself, was just a little bit kind of somewhat all wannabe, exactly just like a wannabe football star, and just saying is like, being like famous or being like a superhero. After when I kept hearing that he said he wants to be like a superhero someday, until then, that's whenever what happened about Lightning. The kid version of him, actually, the kid version of Lightning. So that's probably what happened to him. That is whatever that was going on about Lightning. And then I did have a bit of agrees to disagrees about Lightning for like having a bit of simple taste about the character was all right, but some points of Lightning was just never almost close to exactly be the only example of me saying so about him. So that's just what was going on. So if you guys pretty much do consider enjoying more of the rest of the entire video halfway to the end of this, then please be sure to consider to give this one a like and comment, subscribe to the bell, be notified, and just want to let everybody else know that this is only a my thought progress of the entire show about me like saying is like the spin-off about saying is how good the show was or how bad it was. That's just what I want to be talking about and just kind of give my thoughts and opinions about talking about the characters of some of them were good and some of them were pretty much not to be good. So that's what was going on. And if anybody has any questions, then please be sure to consider to give this one a like and comment, subscribe to the bell to be notified. And we are pretty much almost halfway done, all the way halfway to the end of the entire thing, since we might actually add one more guest to the entire thing. That will be Chris McLean himself, actually being in like the spinoff. You know, I mean, he only appears to be in once, or even appears to be like the news anchor, or even hell, he gets to be like the new person that actually gets to talk about like, the teachers competition, and then like seeing who was like the best teacher for their student, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's probably what I would be talking about next. So anyway, the next person we'll be talking about in Pocketail Island, what we're going to talk about next is Sugar. So let's get on ahead and talk about the next person starting already and right now. So let's go ahead and talk about Sugar. So, Sugar. Well, let's just talk about Sugar for an example. Well, the question about Sugar is just that, well, she seemed to pretty much just be like a country girl since, like, yeah, which, again, I don't blame Sugar in some parts of being a country person since, like, I actually kind of did lean more of pretty much saying Ella was a better character than Sugar, so they were like two kind of rivals going on with each other, especially like the whole with Dave thing, exactly with pretty much it compares with Sky and Ella, which I think more likely that Ella was kind of better than Sky. And then exactly what the next question about saying is like, oh, who do you think was better, Gwen's cousin or Sugar? The only question I'd say who's better is Ella. Actually, I'm like, duh. I mean, what else am I supposed to say? I mean, we know that there's two similarities having like which one from another by having like either saying is like Ella, that is probably like a singer, a princess who pretty much sings to animals. And then, of course, on the other side, that is Sugar, that is a country girl that is always talking about like country and country stuff and talking about like back in the farm or the hay and stuff. Like, she almost looks like the exact same thing that pretty much talks about Scott. And I'm like, dang, does that actually look like a little similar to me? That there's like a few similar country characters that were actually supposed to probably be in a different time, maybe. Which I don't blame both sides. Actually, I kind of only stay near one side of this by seeing who was even better. But in this point now, we're going to talk about Sugar fully of the episode, how Sugar did. So about this question about Sugar, that well, the question to me after when Lightning and Sugar were about to still notice each other, after when they were actually talking about like saying is like, oh, the place sounds so weird. Like, oh, the kids we sound so weird. Well, I don't know what to tell them about that, but it's always going to kind of actually have a different point of view in times when that even goes on with it. So, yeah, I kind of give Sugar more likely a bit of somewhat okay, a little bit around like 7 out of 10, which I kind of give Sugar 7 out of 10 because of like how Sugar does or whatever that she just performs or whatever that she does for like anybody else in the show that continues on with like having two special guests that pretty much would sound likely to be a good idea, but having that only comparison idea to have that to be allowed. Which, I mean, the only people I would think who would have been better to join was kind of like having Lightning, which was okay, and then having Lindsay in the show. Which, I mean, especially Lindsay should have supposed to probably would have been in that show with Beth. I mean, it's just kind of a little bit obvious, you know? It's kind of a little bit more obvious by having not Lindsay in the show. And I'm like, wait, isn't Lindsay supposed to probably be like joining with Beth in the show? And that actually really confuses me whenever that was very much likely to go on and on and on. So it really confused me and stuff. I was like, yeah, really confusing me in some other parts of that. So that's just pretty much it that I want to talk about. And then, yeah, I kind of give Sugar more of a 7 out of 10. And without that being said, let's get to the last and very last character that we'll talk about is Chris McLean. That we'll be talking about that since he was more likely a news anchor that showed up in a few times of the television that showed up in somewhere. But yeah, I mean, let's just give it one more surprise, and then that's when we might end it and wrap it up exactly and talk about all that, like the whole thing that's just been happening from season to season, like three seasons in a row in the spinoff. So that's what was going on in there. Anyway, let's just get on to Chris McLean and see what I have to comment about Chris about that. All right, the next person we're going to talk about is Chris McLean, the one and the very only one that is Chris McLean. So, about Chris that I want to be talking about that, well, we don't have any time about Dawn since we're going to probably like wrap things up for a bit since like, oh, let's just talk about the kids that were pretty much like the kid versions of themselves. Like that's what I was talking about from the beginning about like the kid versions of themselves. Hold on, I gotta drink the Gatorade for a minute. All right, let me just talk about what I'm talking about. So that way I don't have to confuse anybody here. So now, about Chris McLean, I have to say that, well, it made me feel a bit surprised after when Chris was actually on board in the spinoff, and I'm like, wait, you telling me that Chris McLean is in the spinoff? And I'm like, wait, how did he appear in the episode? And I'm like, okay, that makes more sense that he actually appeared into the episode or quietly to be in as a news anchor. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that pretty much makes more sense. That really does make sense. Like, wow, I never knew Chris actually took like the news anchoring position thing. And I'm like, huh, okay. That seems a little new to me, which I never know he was to used to be like a news anchor in the show. But who knows? Like, who really knows? So, about me talking about Chris McLean, even though I did, like I said again, I've always liked Chris McLean back in season one when he started to be a lot more useful in things exactly when I actually think he was a better person in the season and a pretty better reality TV show and the reality TV host, pretty much to be the one who actually pretty much is the host of Total Drama Island and other stuff with the hosting stuff. So when I have to think about Chris McLean, I think he was better in season one when me, or should I say, Duncan and Chris actually got along pretty better afterwards. Before things got a little different before other hands with some other parts that were not good at some points to be otherwise, but as in for like when season two got a bit interesting, oh yeah, it went pretty better in season two. But in season three, oh heck no. That's when things went so down the rabbit hole. Like that's what really when things went down the rabbit hole. Like actually Chris and then of course my guy Duncan we're pretty much starting to be the ones starting to actually have like a hissy fit, about a few times that my guy doesn't want to sing. Like seriously, my guy did not want to sing. He just wants to be in a competition that he didn't want to sing because the only word I like hearing from Duncan sing was like, well, I don't. Yeah, pretty much everybody else sings and Duncan's do not sing. Like, seriously, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, of course, I actually wanted to begin on with that surprise of an action, with an actual reaction by me talking about, like, the Chris McLean that actually just shows up to pretty much to be in a spinoff. And I'm like, um, okay. So you tell me Chris McLean actually shows up into one thing. That actually really makes sense for more a lot. Really makes more sense to be so. But anyway, that's probably what I want to say right now, and just kind of give my full thought about Chris McLean again, and just say is like, you know what? How if we just do one revisit where Chris actually gets to be in something again? Which that's what I want to be talking about for this. And then as in for like season four, well, all I'm gonna say that I still didn't like Chris McLean because even hell, my guy Duncan got away and started laughing, which was even amazing, and I'm like. Yeah, now that's Duncan I like. The one who pretty much laughs and runs after when that was funny. Like, seriously, I laughed my behind off after when that happened. by saying when Chris was saying was like, all right, chef, let go of the perp and just go him on a 3 try. Or whatever that Chris was going to say afterwards. Which, again, he pretty much was going to meant to say the word perp exactly by saying he's like, okay, chef, let the perp go on a field trip. Or whatever that he was going to say. And then that's when I started enjoying the say is like, oh, damn. That's when I laughed a lot a bit from that. So in season 5, well, at least it was time for payback anyway for Chris to suffer the only way to pay for that because he called my guy a nice guy. And I'm like, excuse me? Did you just say my guy Duncan is a nice guy, a hero? What? No! I'm like, no, 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 no. Did you just have to call my guy a nice guy? Oh my god. Really? He is not a nice guy. Like, come on. Really, Chris? Like, you seriously kidding me? My guy Duncan has a good role by being bad. But of course, again, it went down the sinkhole for absolutely no reason. Like, no wonder why how stupid that was for Chris for calling my guy pretty much like a nice guy. Ah, that was stupid. But now let's just talk about like the actual like Total Dramarama of Chris. So about the next one we're gonna say is about like the news anchoring position for Chris, and then he was pretty much like hosting something in a stadium. Well, it was pretty interesting with the drones that was in the sky, and that's when I thought of like saying is like, wait, how do you get drones to pretty much videotape the whole thing when that's impossible? And I'm like, oh, that's right, it was emanated. Like it was like fully emanated, an emanation. That's what I forgot about because I already knew why about it. So if anybody does or doesn't know exactly about like and some different parts about Chris that well, yeah, Chris kind of got himself to be in jail for a long, 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 long time. And I'm like, yeah, who's the one going to jail now? Chris does. And I mean, even though I kind of did laugh for a bit after when I was Duncan, my guy, favorite guy, Duncan, seeing him being thrown in jail, and I'm like, dang. I mean, who thought he's going to go to jail? Like, again, even though my guy Duncan did gone to jail like in season 5, but when it was just season 4 of Chris going to jail, that's when it was pretty interesting. And I'm like, oh, okay, so he went to jail first. Ah, okay, I see why. So, anyways, all I gotta say right now is that, man, I gotta say about like the whole thing went pretty nuts. So, if anybody has seen other characters in different other episodes, that's when you guys might have to definitely look at those anyway for a rewatch. And also, I'm gonna probably be ending this now exactly since we're gonna probably do that anyway. So, let's get to the clip and let's get to the next part of it anyway, and then we'll talk about the entire discussion about how Total Dramarama was good or bad, which I might still give my final and final last of the entire thing to be done. So, here we go. Let's get it on with. Alright, everybody. Well, all I gotta say right now that we didn't have time to talk about Dawn because it'll actually take more time and space of actually talking about loads and lots of characters from each other episode. Which trust me, it's super long to talk all about all of them at the same time. So, before I do wrap things up and do talk about everything else, what was even in the events of Total Dramarama, well, I kind of give this like a big masterful credit for 10 out of 10. Especially, I'm only giving 10 out of 10 just for the show, but I actually think the show was amazing. I kind of give the credit where credit is due by saying that I like Duncan and Owen a lot more in the show, especially Courtney and Gwen, that I liked even more, and then so did Bridget. Like, I have to say that Bridget deserved more camera time to be in the season, but it is what it is, which that's what pretty much everybody always will say from now and every day. So, what I'm going to say about the entire show, that I'm not going to talk about the bad episodes. I'm talking about like the episodes were good and a decent amount of episodes that were good to the entire fact that were pretty good, except the facts that most likely all of them were good, except some episodes were pretty bad. And some other ones that you may catch, some of them were pretty bad, or maybe a little bit odd or disgusting that you might see, which that's pretty much what we'll discover next, or not discover now, since, like, yeah, my tongue's going to keep twisting the twist. So, you know what I'm going to talk about next. Now, all I'm going to say that why do I give the show 10 out of 10? The reason why I give Total Dramarama 10 out of 10 is because I find the show pretty well done and very absolutely amazing. Because I'm only just here to say that I've always liked Duncan, Owen, Courtney, Gwen, and then maybe pretty much Bridget, since I didn't have anything to deal with Bridget or anything else. I mean, Jude was an okay person, except the fact that Jude was already pretty cool, except that I will not want to be acknowledging about with the, what you might see anyway. But as in for what I'm going to be pointing out exactly, is just saying is that I hope that you guys enjoy this video about me having my talk about Total Dramarama and see what you guys think about it. And as in for like the reboot, nah, I'm not going to talk about the reboot because at this point, it's just about like a different voice actor who literally kind of voices like, you know, Chris McClain. That actually used to voice again, pretty much used to voice as Don back in the Redunculous race. So yeah. The reason why I'm going to say is that, well, I'm pretty much not going to talk about, like, the reboot. The reason why I'm not going to talk about Total Drama reboot of season 1 of 2023, the reason why I'm not going to talk about it is because I prefer actually at least not talking about the show because I just don't want to. Because, my opinion is my opinion alone, even though that's why I'm going to agree anyway with 100% agreed that, well, again, I'm not going to pretty much talk about the season 1 or season 2 thing, which I'm never going to talk about that anyway. So just remember that there will never, and I mean will never and ever, about me talking about Total Drama reboot of Island reboot. Never. So remember again that there were two things that just happened with the voice actors that only was related to Chris and Chef. So right now, everybody, I want to give like a full explanation of why about that. I'm gonna say that, well, the reason why I liked Chris, the old Chris, better than the other one is because I kind of liked the old Chris better when he did the laugh, which was even funny, which that's what I liked. So yeah, that's kind of why I liked better. And then as in I like the character Don, I've always liked that character Don just to be in his regular tone of his own voice, except not doing the Chris impression. So that's pretty much what I want to talk about from here and now is that, well, if you guys actually do want to talk in the comments to tell me to say is like, oh, what's your guys' favorite moments in Total Dramarama? The good episodes I'm talking about. The good kind of episodes that were better. I'm talking about like the good ones, not the bad ones, the horrible ones, the odd and gross ones. But I mean, hey, Owen was pretty funny anyway, so his farts were actually pretty interesting anyway to do that anyway, because trust me, Owen is funny. Like, if you see in season 1, he literally farts so many times. And then he does it so many times for no reason. Example, that he just does it in similar times. So, again, it's just comedy. So, without that being said, guys, I hope to say this again is thank you all very much for watching. Please be sure to give this video a like and comment, subscribe to the bell, be notified, and I'm probably going to get going after this. And yeah, Total Dramarama is pretty good. I still give this 10 out of 10 though, but hey, I'll still give it 10 out of 10. And also, by the way, I do not own the claims by any reason you may see in the screen that you are actually going to be notifying for a few parts of the beginning. So remember, again, it belongs to the original people who makes the show and pretty much Cartoon Network and other stuff related to themselves. So remember, I don't own it. I'm just here to talk about the fact about which characters I liked better in the show. That only is related to the island or related to the preschool. That pretty much is Total Dramarama. So, thank you. And that's pretty much what I want to be talking about for that in the end. So, there you go. Anyways, I am Devin-Foxy Remastered. I hope that you guys enjoyed the show and enjoyed your visit of watching this entire long minute explanation of the whole thing and exactly the whole thing. So, thank you everybody for enjoying this. And without that being said, I am Devin-Foxy Remastered. And yeah, so don't forget, guys, I am definitely going to be doing Sub-Zero's game next, which actually does start now, which that's going to be later. So if you guys are excited for me to do Sub-Zero's game that I'll actually be doing and will probably be doing in part one, is that yes, I will be definitely playing Sub-Zero's game, which I'm only going to give my opinion about Sub-Zero's game anyway in part one, which I could start on with. So if you guys are excited to see Sub-Zero, that's going to be Bihan, actually. That's going to be the Bihan version of Sub-Zero. Then I hope that you guys actually pretty much enjoy it and have a very good, wonderful time to enjoy the next gameplay that happens next to be Sub-Zero's game. So with that being said, thank you, and I'll see you guys once again very soon, and to be once again next time. So anyway, I am Devin-Foxy Remastered, and I'll see you guys again next time. And also, into infinity and then yet beyond. Into another next time of another video. I am Devin-Foxy Remastered. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Have a very amazing day. And I'll see you in the next video. Devin-Foxy Remastered is out. And sign on out. Bye-bye, everyone. Peace out. Goodbye. And see you next time. And then we'll be playing Sub-Zero's game, which is going to be an official, and it's going to be on a community post. That's going to happen soon. So remember, it's going to happen, and I hope that you guys enjoy your thoughts about part one that I'll be participating to do Sub-Zero. Even though I don't like Bihan, I'm more likely liking Kwai and Hanzo Asashi. So that's pretty much what I liked better with two characters I liked better. Even though which ones do I like better even more, either Hanzo Asashi or pretty much Kwai. The answer is always that obvious. It's pretty much Hanzo Asashi that I've always had liked better than Kwai. So yeah. Thank you and have a good night. Peace out, everyone. Bye bye. Later.